Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joanne Stevens, and this is our Thursday call-in show for the mobile home park business. We have a very special guest today that I'll be introducing in a moment and interviewing. And today our show is on property management and building traffic and getting the homes sold or rented, and also some tips for hiring and training park managers. So I'll be interviewing Lindsay McQuillan of MHPI. I wanted to remind our listeners of some upcoming events, and these are in 2018. The quarterly meeting for the Manufactured Housing Institute will take place February 4 through 6 in New Orleans at the Ritz. So that will be the first meeting of 2018 for the MHI. Another event to put on your calendars is, and the registration is not open yet for either of these events, but when it is, we'll put it on our website, which is joannemstevens.com, and up in the right-hand corner, we have a Save the Date button that you can click on to get information about the events and even register. But the Las Vegas Congress is April 24th through 26th. This year it's at the Paris Hotel. And this is a not to be missed event. So you'll want to be sure to check out what's happening at that event as details become available. Also, wanted to mention to people a couple of quarterly analyst calls for two publicly traded companies in the mobile home park business, and that is United Mobile Home. That is the REIT, the Real Estate Investment Trust. Their quarterly call is tomorrow, November 3rd at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to go listen to their call and find out what's happening with UMH and just with the mobile home park business in general, just Google UMH and then follow the prompts to sign up for their conference call. Another quarterly conference call is from CAFCO Inc. So CAFCO is CAVCO, and of course they're a manufacturer. They have quite a few brands, including Fleetwood. And that call is November 8th, and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're interested in learning more about their take on what's happening and what's coming up with manufacturing, then just Google CAFCO.com. So I want to introduce Lindsay McQuillan. And Lindsay is a rising star at MHPI Inc. And MHPI Inc. is one of the largest mobile home park owners in the United States. They're a very significant company. They do an excellent job of operating their properties, and so Lindsay joined the company not long ago. She's doing really well. She was recently promoted to area regional manager for MHPI. Before that, she was a property manager for a large apartment firm, and she also has a background in human resources. So I hope I covered the highlights of Lindsay's background, but I'm going to introduce her now. Lindsay, are you with us?
I am. Hi, Joanne, and hello, everyone else.
Thanks for joining us. Are you on speakerphone?
I am. Do you need me to get on this better?
Yeah, that's better. I think it'll be easier for people to listen to you. So Lindsay, so you haven't been with MHPI long, but tell us a little bit more, if you would, about you started at a very young age in the real estate business and the property management business. Can you tell us what got you into the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I come from a family background of housing and development. My father was the CFO of Touchstone and Durable Homes, and my stepfather is superintendent and has been over multiple projects. So housing kind of runs in the blood. And when I turned 18, straight out of high school, actually, I went into multi-housing property management as just a leasing agent. And that first community that in the management company that I was employed with, the community where I was staffed was a very, very tough transition. We were going from affordable housing Section 8 converting to conventional, all the while we were going through full top to bottom renovation. So, so starting your career that way definitely opens your eyes and broadens your horizons as far as the amount of what it takes to be able to really divulge, just kind of submit yourself into property management.
Sure. Well, what a great beginning to your career. And I know you do something that's very unique. I think there was a time in this business, and this is going back about 20 years or so, where really the park managers weren't too involved with selling the homes. And certainly it was unusual to have rental mobile homes or rent-to-own mobile homes. But you have really taken the bull by the horns and been selling and renting a lot of homes in your new position with MHPI. And tell our listeners how many homes you've sold since you've been with the company.
I have been with MHPI. I have sold 47 houses. And that's been over the course of just a little bit over 1 year.
Okay. And I think, would you say that again? Because I'm not sure what happened there, but I think that number didn't quite come through. So I want people to hear this.
Oh, yeah, 47. So 47 homes I have sold and closed within just a little bit over 1 year.
Well, that is a tremendous amount of homes. And were those new homes?
This is both new and used.
Terrific. And so, as I was saying, people often, it can be a challenge, or the conventional wisdom in the mobile home park business is, well, it's two different talent or skill sets to manage a property and to sell the homes. What do you think about that?
I don't agree. And the reason I don't agree is because who better to sell product in your community than the person that represents and operates your community on a regular basis?
Well, that's a really good point, because all the benefits, and you have, I'm sure, many not only satisfied customers, but delighted customers that live in the communities. So, so you're really dispelling the myth that you can't operate the property and sell the homes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I feel like it actually gives the property manager an advantage because part of the sales process is building rapport. And that's something that you as a property manager develop with each of your residents on a daily basis. So to be able to convey that trust to a prospective resident is an integral part of closing a sale.
Sure. And I know that one of the things that you had mentioned was that some of the leads of the homes that have been sold, that you sold, have come from your residents. And tell us how that happened, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. There's three different avenues that I really pay close attention to, and our highest volume of traffic is generated through resident referrals, and that is just simply because we have a resident base here that knows that they have a management team that is here to provide a clean, quiet, and safe community. And not only that, but we bring our residents together constantly, just to build that sense of community, and for them to refer, when they have believe in their neighborhood, that goes, I don't think I have to explain any further how important that is. And to generate, like I said, almost 60% of my traffic through resident referrals. I mean, it just starts with your daily interaction with every single resident that you come face to face with, or that you interact with in any way. Just because that amount of service speaks volumes. Another thing that we also make sure to do that I think that people kind of lose sight of is we are constantly auditing our Google reviews. And if I ever have residents or anybody that's leaving a negative review, I am always sure, I make sure as a property manager to reply to them, and to try to discover exactly if it is a negative review, what exactly is going on, and create resolve, and to do that through Google. So that way it's showing that we are not sitting idly by. And I think that's a big part of it as well. So not only are we generating the resident referrals, but we're also making sure that our Google reviews, we're staying anywhere between, we're at 3.9 stars of 5 right now. And even in the apartment industry, that's pretty unheard of. So
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, do you have a practice or a policy at your company of when you have a review that you need to address, that it's done within a certain period of time, or what kind of, guidelines do you have internally for that?
There isn't necessarily a timeline. My own personal timeline is within 48 hours or 2 business days.
Okay. And, getting back to the sense of community and getting referrals from your residents and interacting with them, are those interactions online? Are they face-to-face? Are they by email? How are you interacting with your customers?
In every single sense. So I mean, it's just being consistent in all of those avenues, Joanne. We're interacting face to face, obviously regularly, especially in the first week of the month. As
Sure.
We all know, the first week of the month is my favorite, because that's when everybody's bringing in rent, and I can let them know that we have new inventory and say, hey, are any of your friends looking to move, and just getting that knowledge out there. And then absolutely, making sure that we're responding online. And we also have a Facebook page where we can convey messages of any sort of upcoming community events, not just property specific, but community throughout Cedar Rapids.
Lindsay, I know that you've I don't know how long ago your promotion was, but you started out as the on-site manager of a very large community, almost 500 site community in Cedar Rapids, which is a town with a market area of about 250,000 people. And so, and I would describe you as being very high energy. but you recently have transitioned, and so there's a new manager that you oversee. How do you make sure that the managers that you oversee are delivering that message when people come in to pay their rent that, hey, we have new inventory? Do you know anybody? What do those managers say, or what do you say to people? And how do you make sure that your managers, month after month, are conveying that message?
And you know what? I can answer that with a very simple sentence. I hire personality.
Okay.
Because skill sets are trainable. Personality is something that's going to stick with a human being, and that is basically going to be the core of their existence for the rest of their lives. And it's just about finding that right personality, finding someone who is eager, finding someone who will take ownership of your property and treat it as their own small business. And by creating the skill set, and just developing that sense of pride within, their community and their ability to run their community, is exactly what it takes to see those type of results. Because you can't drive that if you have a property manager that doesn't look at that specific property essentially as their baby.
Okay.
Is the best way I can kind of put it. Just that sense of ownership and pride, and making sure that they're very eager and hungry and want to grow and develop your business.
Well, I think that's really good advice. And I know with your, I want to ask you in a moment here about the some ideas about hiring and training and retaining. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you if there's other activities. I mean, do you do many community-based activities with your residents?
Several. We do a weekly breakfast that is open to all of the residents of our community.
Wow.
Yes, and then we also hold larger scale holiday parties. I can tell you at one of our communities, we just had a Halloween party, and they have a basement to their clubhouse area, and there was a quite productive haunted house in that basement for Halloween, and absolutely free. Everybody in the community welcome, not just property specific again. And that's a really big part of it too, is making sure that you're outreaching to people other than residents. Come to our haunted house, come to our holiday party, come to our summer party, come to breakfast. So.
And well, that's interesting that it's a community-wide and not just the mobile home park. And how do you get the word out to the community about the breakfasts and the parties?
My one of my associates, they call me the company fairy, because no matter where I go, I have left behind a part of any sort of properties. If I'm in the area of one of my few communities, I make sure I have property specific marketing collateral. If I'm going to lunch, there's flyers left on the table where I was sitting. If I'm going into grocery store, there are flyers being pinned up on any sort of community boards that you can find. It's really just about injecting yourself and the information and just getting it out there. And that's as easy as just making sure you have a couple pieces of paper with you on your regular daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And so are your managers at your communities, are they charged with the same thing if they're going to the bank, if they're going out to lunch or going to the bank, that or going over to Walmart, that they should take flyers?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And sometimes flyers aren't conducive just because they're your standard sheet of paper. So a couple of the managers have even gone so far as to order property specific custom business cards with the sales information of new inventory, with any sort of pertinent reoccurring events. Like for us, it's our weekly breakfast at our largest community. So that's promoted, and it's a free breakfast every single Wednesday from 9 a.m. till 10:30 a.m.
Wow. And, I think people listening to this might be a little bit worried about, wow, isn't that going to cost a lot to have a monthly breakfast and, or have these parties and, print the flyers? What do you say to that?
Absolutely not. Our weekly breakfast at our largest community averages between $20 and $25 per week, which is an annual amount of roughly about $1,050. If we're looking at the overall cost, I mean, $25 a week is absolutely expendable, even when you're on a very skinny budget, property specific. So
Sure. I think that's money very well spent. Even that's a very low cost item, but over time, I would imagine that's going to result in a lot of residents that otherwise might not have had any idea about your community, or if they did, it sort of gave them the nudge to look into it more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Years ago, when we were filling a community, a very large community in this market area, we had we put up a lot of flyers at local businesses and grocery stores, laundromats, banks, Walmart. It takes and we got business from, we got people that moved in because of that. And so I think in this high tech world, there still is people still do read what's up on the bulletin board. And
I would absolutely agree with you 100%. And you'll find that some people even appreciate it that much more. That it's something, tactile. It's something right in front of them, as opposed to web-based. It's almost the same feeling that we get today receiving a handwritten letter in the mail. How good that feels when we're so accustomed to email.
You're right. When you get an unexpected handwritten piece of mail, I mean, that's an event at my house. And also, I wanted to ask you, before we move on to talk about hiring, while we want to talk about delinquency, then we want to talk about hiring managers. But the referrals that you've received from your residents, were those people that your residents worked with, or went to church with, or were there any sort of trends that you've seen?
The one trend I have seen is a lot of family.
Okay.
A tremendous amount of familial referrals.
Okay.
But I've definitely seen it all. I've seen coworkers. I've seen church members. I've seen gym buddies. But the largest trend is family.
Well, that's interesting. I would think that just the community events and the reminders to people about the new inventory, that probably is an impetus to for them to remind their family members that hey, Five Seasons is a great community, or Holiday Lodge, or any Highland, any of your other properties. So, and I wanted to ask you, because I think this is a statement that not too many managers can make, about your 100% collections.
Absolutely, and that yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
No, you go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, and the one thing I have to say about the 100% collections is when it comes to operations, and when it comes to collections, the way I look at it is, you cannot go to a grocery store and put everything through checkout, have all of your groceries bagged, and not have the amount of money that comes up as your total amount due and be able to walk out with all of those groceries.
I would agree with that.
And I would say it's that same mentality
Uh-huh.
when it comes to collections.
Okay. Well, that's a great philosophy, but tell us how that works at your communities.
Collections start on the first of the month. Collections do not start when rent becomes late. It is a proactive daily activity. And just a little bit more in depth about the process. I mean, I think that us as experienced industry members, I think we can all say that you see the same handfuls of people on your delinquency towards the middle of the month, just about every month, and the way to reprogram that and retrain your residents is, and it all depends on the way your lease reads, but I do not wait until rent has become late to start the eviction process. Rent is due on the 1st, which it explains in our lease agreement. Therefore, on the 2nd, I'm starting to process my evictions if that is what I need to do. And that's kind of how we began that process. And it only took 2 months of that process for my residents to figure out and get on board rather quickly with the fact that rent is expected to be paid and it is expected to be your priority. And that's, it goes back to the building the rapport with your community. As far as collections, we will call emergency contacts. We will call employers. I will reach out to residents personally via text message. If by the 5th of the month I'm not seeing their payment, and just simply say, hey, is anything going on? I noticed I haven't received your payment for this month's lot rent. Can you let me know that you'll be here before 5 o'clock today? Can you confirm with me? And it goes back to that sense of community and building rapport, and that helps so much in your collections effort.
Yeah, and that's a real call to action when you add, and can you be here by 5 o'clock before the office closes to take care of it, rather than, hey, you didn't pay. I think setting out just that little addition of, can you be here by 5 p.m. today? That's you said you're not afraid to call the employers. How did you mean that, Lindsay?
Oh, I will, on our resident applications, it calls for current employer information, and also calls for emergency contacts. I will pull resident files. I will reach out to employers. If I can't contact that resident directly, I will try to reach them at work.
Okay.
And if I can't, I will ask to speak to an immediate supervisor and let them know that, that this is X, Y, and Z's landlord, and I am trying to reach them. It's an emergency, and if they could please call me back. And I don't think there's anything more that says I need to pay my lot rent than your boss coming to you saying, hey, your landlord called, they need you to call them back.
I would agree with that. That's and the emergency numbers are probably I would imagine mostly family, and so when you get a call from your parents saying, hey, what's going on? Your landlord said you hadn't paid the rent. That's do you get much? How do those calls go with the emergency?
Yeah, numbers? And I never disclose to employers or emergency contacts what it is regarding.
Right.
Just out of respect for my residents. But but I think that's what prompts the call even more. Is, hey, this is your daughter's landlord. I have an urgent matter that I need to communicate with her about. I'm unable to reach her. Can you please help me? I need to speak with her immediately.
Okay. Well, that's, well, I know that many mobile home park owners tell me, well, that 100% collection isn't, possible. And so, you're saying that you've had, within a very short time of taking over this property, you're having 100% collections. And I think pretty much well before the end of the month, too. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I typically like to be at 0 between the 20th and the 25th at latest. If it's the
Okay.
25th, I'm pulling my hair out.
Well, I think those are excellent tips, Lindsay, on getting the rent in, because by being proactive as you are, that probably in the long run saves you a tremendous amount of time. You're training residents that lateness will not be tolerated if they expect to live on your property.
Yeah, it saves us time. It saves us money. And
Sure.
it helps our occupancy, because by putting forth such a tremendous amount of effort every day, I mean, even if it's just 30 minutes of your day calling on delinquency, and just really being extremely resilient when it comes to your collections efforts. I mean, you're saving the court cost of having to go through eviction towards the end of the month because somebody hasn't paid. You're saving occupancy because you're not losing that resident, or are you losing that house? So
yes, that's a really good point. It's so expensive when you start to file, and of course those or start that filing process, and of course those costs ultimately are passed through to the resident.
Correct.
Well, those are great tips. And I wanted to, I know you recently hired an employee that you feel very enthusiastic about, that you're very pleased with how she's acclimating to her job as a property manager. And so tell us, your ideas about hiring for a property manager position for a park. Do you look for people with mobile home park experience?
No, no, I
Okay.
don't. And if they have it, wonderful. If they don't, that's perfectly fine, because then I don't get their bad habits with them.
Okay.
because sometimes that happens, especially when you have somebody who's rather seasoned. They grow a little complacent, and but
Sure.
it's definitely something experience is not required with me. And just kind of circling back to what I had touched on before, is it's really about personality. It's really about finding someone who is motivated, finding someone who has goals and who has previous goals and has accomplished those goals. And you can see that through their portfolios that they're able to provide to you. And then that happens even just in the interview process. But as far as the manager that you're referring to, I couldn't be happier. And it was exactly that. She came to us with no industry experience, and actually didn't have sales experience either. But she had strong customer service. She had a strong background also in human resources. And those two things together just created kind of the perfect storm, if you will, because you have somebody who is going to offer a very high level of customer service, and with that HR background is going to be a pretty great conflict resolutionist, and really just be able to facilitate your community.
And we're getting towards the end of our interview today, Lindsay, but tell us how you found this manager, or your tips on advertising or finding a manager. Because when you're not from this area where you hired a manager, so it's not like you had a deep um, pool of people that you knew that you could, network with to say that you were looking for to hire a park manager. What tips do you have for us?
Yeah, I love using Indeed. I think Indeed is probably one of the stronger advertising sources I've found when it comes to employment advertising. And the one thing that I like to do in all of my employment advertising is making sure that it's conveyed that this is a manager in training position.
Okay.
And with that, I am able to set forth goals that have to be accomplished and achieved in order for me to give someone their property, to give someone their title, and to give someone um, a certain amount of competitive compensation. But there has to be the introductory period, um, and during that time, it is their responsibility to prove themselves.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's that. And how long is that period? The
90
the
days.
90 days. Okay, terrific,
Mm-hmm.
terrific. Well, Lindsay, I think um, we're going to have you back in a month or two, because there's so many. You're just a wealth of information on park operations, and you seem to have a real enthusiasm for this business. And congratulations on all the success you're having with MHPI. So I want to thank Lindsay, and her interview will be posted on our YouTube channel shortly. And we'll let you know when Lindsay's going to be back to talk to us about some of her other tips on operations and filling sites and selling and renting homes. And I want to remind our listeners that next week, Thursday, November 9th, I will be interviewing Kevin Walker of Resident-Owned Communities, and he's going to explain to us what's involved with the residents buying their community. So I want to thank everyone for listening today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.